Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Madhu. All well?
Very good. Thank you. Yes.
Good morning,
Excellent.
sir.
Tom, how are you?
Yeah, fine, sir. Great.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Maya, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Excellent.
Good morning, everyone.
Tom, it's very early for you in the morning, right?
It is. It's 5 a.m. here.
Sorry to disturb you at 5 a.m.
It's okay. I have coffee, so I'll be fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Wonderful. Ida, welcome. Welcome to GRG.
Thank you so much for having me.
For you, of course, it's lunchtime now.
Yes.
Right. Ida is from Malaysia, the Swinburne Sarawak campus, and Tom is from the Nottingham Trent University Business School in Nottingham, UK. Dr. Metri is the director of IIM at Nagpur, Central India. And Professor Madhu Virraghavan is the director of an institute called APMI, API Management Institute in Manipal, all the way down south. And Maya is with, I'm sure many of you would have heard of that organization called Cognizant Technology Solutions. And she is the assistant vice president. She's based in Coimbatore. Ida is a professor at, as I said, Swinburne in Malaysia. So welcome to everybody. And we are not starting the program right now. We'll wait for another 5-10 minutes and Vandana will do the formal introduction. But I thought since all of you are already on board, we might as well have a little chat.
Yes, sure.
Do any of you have any special preference in terms of where and when you would like to go? I know that Madhu, I thought we will give him the first chance because he has another meeting scheduled at 11:15. So Madhu will go first. But apart from Madhu, anyone else, you have any preference?
Your choice, sir. You decide. It is fine, you know.
All right.
My
Okay.
time
I did for Tom actually at 5 a.m. I wish I could tell Tom you could go first and then I can get into bed. But
No, don't worry about that.
as much as you know, well, I know you. It's difficult for you early in the morning, but it's just that we have a promotion interview lined up right after this event, so that's why I requested Professor Balasubramanian if I could go first, and maybe then I can just get a promotion interview.
That's absolutely fine with me. I'm awake now, so whenever I go, it makes no difference to me.
Tom could also watch the India-England test if you're really keen on saying what the. I'm sure you're not keen.
No, having seen the score this morning, I'll avoid that, I think.
I think well, that's good.
Hopefully I can represent England better in India this morning than the team can.
Yeah, that's
It always
true.
brings countries together. That's good.
Maya, you have any preference?
No, sir, I'm fine anytime.
All right. Okay.
So,
Excellent.
Professor Bala, one request I had, I mean, we can probably, I leave it to you what you think. Your students are an audience, right? You'll
That's
have
correct. Students are there and also some of our industry contacts in Coimbatore.
Okay, great.
They're also online.
I've got some slides that I prepared, which I could share with on the screen if that's okay with you when I speak. Would that be all right?
Perfectly fine. And I've requested our technology support team to enable the presentation by all the people, all the speakers.
Thank you. Thank you. So this goes from 10:45 to 12, right?
It will stop by about, I guess, 12:15.
Okay, sure.
Because we have one or two people who have sort of expanded the group.
Okay.
Therefore, I think it will go till about 12:15.
Sure, sure.
If we are able to stick to time. But let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes.
Certainly.
Welcome, Prashant. How are you?
Thank you, Professor Bala. I'm doing good.
Excellent. Prashant is the co-founder of a company called Quadra Systems in Coimbatore. He is also a global partner of Microsoft, and he is a recipient of many awards as well from Microsoft as a channel partner, and a very good friend of ours, very forward-thinking. Prashant, just for your information, we have Dr. Bhimaraya Metri.
Vandana ma'am is not audible, ma'am.
No.
I'm not audible?
No, you're audible.
You're audible.
You're audible.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. All right.
Check from your end.
Okay. All right. No, Sabarajan has to check, I think.
Yeah.
It is audible to all of us, Dr. Shabri.
Pretty good. Very clear.
Excellent. Okay. So, Prashant, you have seen the list, I think, on the invitation and everywhere. All are on board. So we will start in the next probably 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Bala, for the kind words. And good morning to all the other participants. It's great to be in, and actually an honor to be in the presence of such a light company. I look forward to learning a lot from today's panel and maybe contributing a little bit of what I have seen or experienced as well. Thank you.
As usual, modest, Prashant.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Vandana, since everyone is on board, would you like to start early?
Yes, sir. We'll start.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
we'll
of you are good with that? All of you are good with that?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Over to you, Vandana.
Thank you, sir. Good morning and good afternoon, Professor Ida. I welcome you all to the panel discussion on the theme, the impact of digital transformation of industry, challenges for management education. Though the pandemic has forced us to organize the event online, we are delighted to have very eminent industry professionals and academics as part of the panel and eagerly look forward to listening to them. The panel discussion will be moderated by Professor S. Balasubramanian, Chief Mentor, GRG Institutions and Director, GRG Center for Advanced Studies. It is my privilege to formally introduce each one of them to you. For the sake of brevity and focus, I've taken the liberty of editing the profiles. First, let me start with the moderator. Moderator of the panel discussion, Professor Balasubramanian, is currently the Director of GRG Center for Advanced Studies, Coimbatore. He is a graduate in mechanical engineering from the University of Madras and holds PG diploma in management from IIM Calcutta. He is a fellow of All India Management Association. He has nearly 50 years of professional experience. He has held senior executive positions for 30 years in private and public sector industry in India and abroad. Professor Balasubramanian is actively involved in management education, training, and consulting. His academic interests are in the field of business leadership and strategy. He has conducted successful and highly rated training programs for a large number of organizations and over 25 faculty development programs. He has been a resource person for numerous sessions on business leadership, strategic management, building a visionary organization, and time management. He is the author of the widely acclaimed book titled The Art of Business Leadership, Indian Experiences. He has actively served as a member of the Council of Management of All India Management Association and the Managing Committee of Coimbatore Management Association. He continues to serve on the education panel of CII Southern Region and of CII Coimbatore Zone. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Vandana.
Professor Bhimaraya Metri, currently the Director of IIM Nagpur, is a distinguished academician, renowned teacher, researcher, and an astute administrator. An outstanding leader of management education, he has performed key leadership roles at many premier management institutes and corporates in his remarkable career. A renowned expert in the area of project management and infrastructure, quality management and supply chain management, he has numerous research papers and books to his credit, apart from being on the editorial advisory boards of several national and international journals. Professor Maitri is the chairman of All India Board of Management Studies, AICTE, New Delhi, and is also on the Board of Studies of IMA, New Delhi. Professor Maitri is a mentor to many universities and is a member of the expert group of implementation of National Education Policy 2020. Professor Maitri has conducted several board level and top management programs for the leading public sector organizations. For such illustrious contributions to the society, he has been bestowed with several awards and recognitions, including the prestigious IMA Cable Noria Award for Academic Leadership in Management Education. Professor Maitri received his PhD from IIT Powai, Mumbai. He is the member of Decision Sciences Institute and Institute of Supply Management, ISM USA. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Professor Aida Badiuzzzaman heads the School of Design and Arts and is the director of the Center for Education Research in Swinburne, Sarawak. An award-winning multidisciplinary researcher who is driven by issues of equity and access, she has been involved in transformative and impactful research projects with government, industry, and higher education partners. Dr. Badiuzzzaman is part of the team for the Building Connections for Enterprising Women's project, a project that received highly commended for the Vice Chancellor's Research Excellence Award 2018. Ranked first place for the Swinburne Research Impact Award 2019, and highly commended for Emerald Interdisciplinary Impact Grant in 2019. She has recently won the 2020 UN Women Malaysia Women's Empowerment Principles Award for the Community and Industry Engagement category. Professor Badiuzzzaman has a PhD in education, and her research interests are student engagement, women entrepreneurship, and teacher education. She teaches in the area like methods and approaches to language research, theories and practices of reading and writing, academic writing, phonology for English teachers, and business writing and communication. Welcome, Professor Badiuzzzaman. We have with us Mr. Prashant Subramanian, who is the co-founder and executive director of QuadraSystems.net India Private Limited, a global award-winning cloud infrastructure solutions provider focused on helping customers build agile and intelligent enterprises. Mr. Prashant has been recognized by the Coimbatore Management Association with the Best SME Entrepreneur Award. Rotary Coimbatore has also conferred Quadra with their Professional Excellence Award. Mr. Prashant is the Vice Chairman of Confederation of Indian Industry, Coimbatore, and immediate past President of the Coimbatore Management Association, affiliated with the All India Management Association. He is a member of the board and past Vice President of International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, the world's largest community of Microsoft partners. He is also a charter member of the Indus Entrepreneurs, or TAI, as well as the chair of the TAI Angels Coimbatore. He also serves on the Board of Studies and Entrepreneurship Development Cells of prestigious academic institutions. Mr. Prashant has a master's in business administration and enjoys reading, photography, and driving. Welcome, Mr. Prashant. Professor Madhu Veeraraghavan is the director of TAPI Management Institute, Manipal, since April 2017. He also holds the position of TAPI Chair Professor of Finance. A doctorate in finance with more than 15 years of teaching experience, he believes that management institutes should work for outcomes that support the mission of the institution. His research interests are in the areas of corporate finance, behavioral finance, and interplay between auditing and finance. Professor Veeraraghavan has published over 50 papers in international journals and has presented his work in top conferences in finance and accounting. He is a referee for some of the highly rated journals in finance. He has won many awards for the best article paper in both national and international conferences. The Social Science Research Network has recently announced that Professor Veeraraghavan is ranked in the top 10% of the authors around the world. Welcome you, Professor Veeraraghavan. Ms. Maya Srikumar has been with Cognizant for 24 years and brings in experience from IT project delivery in US and Europe business operations, heading quality engineering and assurance for various industry domains. Following her passion towards people development strategies, she moved to HR and learning and development domain in 2014 and led the design and implementation of Cognizant's career architecture program as Cognizant's India's lead learning and development head. Recently, she has taken a new role as Cognizant Gen C, which is Generation Cognizant program head, based on her business experience and remarkable implementation of skilling and development strategy for entry-level talent. She is based out of Coimbatore and heads operations for Cognizant. She represents IT industry in the Board of Apprenticeship Training, AICT Southern Region. She was part of roundtable and group discussion on leveraging NASSCOM competency framework for future technology at the NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum 2020. Ms. Maya Srikumar is a leader focusing on women development specific initiatives and was presented with the iconic Women of the Year 2016 award on Women's Day for her contribution in the field of IT in Coimbatore. Welcome, Ms. Maya Srikumar.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas Spencer is head of undergraduate programs in Nottingham Business School and has strategic responsibility for the portfolio of programs run within the school. He works as part of the leadership team within the school to ensure that the programs deliver high quality learning experiences for students and all students are supported during their time at the school. He also contributes to the development and implementation of Nottingham Business School strategy and academic plans and continually seeks to enhance the undergraduate programs. Mr. Spencer is a qualified chartered accountant and is a committee member on the Nottingham, Derby and Lincoln Society of Chartered Accountants, which forms part of ICAEW. He teaches on modules focusing on corporate reporting, audit, corporate governance, and the practical applications of accounting and business skills and knowledge. Welcome, Mr. Spencer. I now hand over to the moderator of the panel discussion. Sir.
Thank you very much, Vandana. In fact, you have succeeded in making me feel that I'm completely inappropriate for this eminent panel. Surrounded by such luminaries, I feel so small.
Actually, it's the other way around, Professor. See, yours was the longest and the most detailed one compared to all of us.
No, that I think Vandana has been partial. Okay. Without much ado, I'm sure some of you also watched the inaugural function when our friend Vijay Tadani was speaking on the theme. And I, for one, thought that he spoke very focused and he mentioned a number of issues which are challenges for management education because of the changes happening in the industry. So I don't want to go into details of each of those for want of time. But what I would suggest we do in terms of format of this panel discussion, I would say that each of you can make an opening remark for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, make your opening remarks, and then we'll follow it up by an interaction. And probably I will raise some questions myself. I will ask for certain clarifications, and then we will open the floor. The virtual floor, we will open it out for people who can ask questions on the chat room. We have a live chat going on YouTube, and Vandana will be happy to coordinate all those questions and comments coming through the chat room, and she will raise those questions as well. I hope that will be all right.
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay. So as I mentioned initially, let's start with Madhu and for his opening remarks before we move on. Over to you, Madhu.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me first. And Professor Balasubramaniam, also thank you for allowing me to go first, given that I have a second meeting right after this. I did hear the chief guest talk about the topic today, and I sort of like some of the comments that he made. But I want to start my 10 minutes or 10 minutes that you've allocated to me in the context of how the workforce is changing. The workforce today there are two major shifts that we're going to see in workforce. Number one, is the gig economy, the robotics, and cognitive technologies that are actually challenging and changing the structure of how the labor is going to be accessed. The second is the nature of the job itself is being changed by technology. There's a very interesting recent report by Deloitte. And if you have a look at the Deloitte report, which talks about what's happened in the UK and the US. In the UK in particular, they're saying, in the last 15 years, there were 600,000 plus jobs were lost in the UK, right? But 3.5 million jobs were created. In the US, because of technology, 6 million jobs were lost because of, particularly in the manufacturing sector, but 600,000 jobs were created, but there were no skills, right? People didn't have the skills to actually get into the workforce. Now, today, if you look at employees around the world, and this is particularly important for B schools like us, employees around the world are looking and browsing through Coursera, Udemy, and all sort of dozen other providers that are offering them a suite of sort of programs to upskill. And the beauty of these programs are, and this is a direct challenge to universities, particularly business schools. The beauty of these programs are you can do them at the time that fits you, the schedule that fits you. And almost, if I were to sort of give you a phrase, it's like lifelong learning. I can learn whenever I want, wherever I want. I mean, that sort of challenge is so critical. And that is really driving the business schools almost insane. Because now business schools are thinking, how do I keep up with these multiple vendors? Here is the quick context. I want to share my screen with all of you, if that's okay with you. And if your students are there, they will probably enjoy some things that I'm probably going to show.
Okay.
So here it is. I just shared the screen. And go right up to the first picture.
You can see.
Okay, you can see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, this is the beautiful Manipal campus, the TAPME campus in Manipal, 44.11 acres. If you haven't visited Manipal, I certainly invite you to come and spend some time with us once this nonsense COVID is over. We would love to host you. So this is the topic, the impact of digital transformation on industry, challenges for management education. So there were three sort of questions that Mandana had sent. So to what extent will technological advancements, including but not limited to artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., impact the practice of management? So here are some things that I think we should have a look at. What are the trends that are positively impacting business growth? I'm talking really only about business because as a business school prof, you really want to be totally connected to what the industry is doing. And almost 99.99% of students end up in the industry. So new technology, big data, advances in AI. Look at the whole curriculum that is being changing. In fact, at TAPME, we've been changing curriculum every year, but in the last year, we changed it 2 times. Of course, thanks to COVID, which made sure that, some of the key things had to change. And I'll talk about that in a little while later. Cloud technology, expansion of education, and expansion of the middle class, which also I will discuss if I have time a little later. But what are the trends that are negatively impacting business growth? That's a cyber threat. People talk about this, and there are a lot of security policies, government policy, mindset, increasing automation. If you speak to people around, they'll say, oh gosh, automation is happening. I think we'll lose some 60% of the jobs. That's not entirely right. And I will show you some very interesting statistics from around the world. This online education, which is directly relevant to us, and why is that important? What is happening in India at this point? So in India, if you look, the market for online education is witnessing a magnificent growth, up from 247 million in 16 to almost over $2 billion in 2021. This is massive, right? And you look at the paid online education users, 1.57 million in 16 to almost 10 million in 2021, right? 2,400 education tech startups in India, right? And Indians are the second largest consumers on book. This is massive. This is absolutely massive. And we use Coursera for our students. In fact, at TAPME, every single student has an unlimited Coursera license, which we fund. And they have access to 3,210 courses from around the world. In fact, to supplement what we do in PGDM, we also give them Coursera courses from Duke, from Minnesota, from all the top schools, right? So we may not want to quickly get to what is EdTech because given the sort of time constraint I have, but I will talk a little bit about the future of EdTech and what sort of positive disruption they've actually made. And the interesting thing about this, and I don't know how many of you feel this way, Professor Balasubramanian, maybe you feel this, you see this in your institution as well. How the instructors teach and how the learners learn, both are changing, right? I mean, you would not have imagined exactly a year ago that should be running online classes. Now today we're running for both PGP 1 and 2 Completely every single course is done online. The examinations are online. Nobody would have ever anticipated that, right? But the learning process has changed and the teaching process has changed, right? And we had to restructure this entire education system. In the last year alone, we had to really get on. The keynote speaker spoke about blended learning. He said, you can't completely remove online and you will also not be able to remove the classroom fully. Absolutely, I totally agree with him. I think the conventional classroom system is very, very interesting, very useful. But you have to now supplement that with digitalization. So, but why is it gaining popularity in India? So look at internet penetration, smartphone. I have a student who is in the north, who's in a small village in UP. And he says, sir, to access your class, I have to be near a cowshed. That's where I get the best sort of an internet connection. And there are students like them. And there are students who stand up on top, of the terrace and say, sir, I will stand here for an hour because, I'm in a very small town. I am not in Delhi, so I don't have access. But if I have to listen to classes or do exams, this is the way I have to do it. So there are obvious issues, right? And we are seeing all of those problems. But there's a significant amount of internet penetration, smartphone penetration, quality education, immediate results that you get to see, and sometimes it's a low-cost alternatives. So all of this is making edutech even more popular in a large country like India. What happened since COVID? This has been unbelievable. I don't look at this as a challenge. I certainly looked at it as an opportunity. And you will see, and many of you will agree, even today in UK, and I'm sure, and in Paris and France and other places, business schools and universities have closed down, right? Many governments have closed, temporarily at least, education institutions to contain this pandemic. Over 60% of the world's student population has been affected. That is massive. Convocations never happened. Induction programs never happened. So what did we have to do? Be school professors. Normally professors are a breed. They would really not, and Prashant and others would probably enjoy this, a shot I would take at my own fraternity, that professors think whatever happens to the world, we'll continue to do it the way we want to do it. But it doesn't work like that. You have to adapt and you have to quickly adopt. You have to be very, very agile. So if you do not reevaluate the actual model, business model that you're now using, this is under serious threat. The whole education system is a threat. So we had to adjust to transition. We had to create a new environment, and it was seamless for students, right? Thousands of students are taking. We had to get all resources, and that had to be done within 40, 45 days. Okay, so use conventional education models that are not used. You have to look at traditional in-room classroom that had to be complemented with very specific modalities. And that is exactly what we did as a school. I'm sure around the country, many schools have done that. I've been talking to many directors, and some of them had major problems. They said, sir, our faculty is not trained to actually do this. We literally have a month and a half to actually start classes. So schools have had to adapt. And that's what I was saying. Most business schools have always thought, and universities have always thought, that whatever happens to the world, it won't impact universities. It's actually wrong. It is wrong. So we get severely impacted. But how will this current trend, this is another picture of the campus, how will the current trends in digital information impact the work or job of the future? So have a look. This is a wonderful Harvard article. And if you haven't read it, I really recommend that you pick up this HBR piece called The Future of Businesses. And they speak about, so they interviewed all professors, senior professors from different departments. And they spoke about, strategic remote work. Now, how many organizations, I'm sure Maya may be in Cognizant as well, you probably still have people working from home. I know very senior people in top investment banks haven't gone to work in a year. Wipro, I'm sure that they have announced that they will now revisit only later this year or early next year when you'll go back to work. So remote work. How do you manage team? Effective team design when you're not in the office. How do you manage those teams? What sort of SOPs are available? How do you break out of silos? How does the workplace culture change in this completely new paradigm? What are the new work priorities, right? How do you create trust-based culture with employees when you don't see your team at all? We are doing exactly now virtual. If you were leading a team, how would the chemistry build, right? And can this actually help customers? If you're looking at a large organization and you're now not going to work, you're operating, how do you create, the chemistry with your customers? Will you be able to help them? So these are all challenges for businesses. And if business schools don't connect with these challenges, we will have a serious problem, because today the recruiters are actually saying, and this is the point I wanted to spend a little bit of time for students if they're watching. Here are the core, and this was done at a Future of Jobs survey at WEF last year. Have a look at what how the skill sets have changed. Unbelievable. If you looked at the skill sets 5 years ago, you probably didn't find some of these things. And today you're talking about problem solving. And students always say, sir, why is that important? Sir, I'm a finance major. Why do I really need to know something else? I'm really good at Excel. And I tell them it doesn't work like that, guys. Employers are not hiring you for one thing, right? So complex problem solving, social skills, and many students don't have it. They just don't have social interpersonal skills. Incredibly important. Sir, I'm a finance guy. What do I ever need to know anything about anybody else? These are the sorts of myths that you want to break. Process skills, system skills, cognitive abilities, right? Can you manage resources? I mean, you said that you'll have a team of 6. Now you only have a team of 3. Can't you run an organization? Resource management skills and content skills. So the change in demand also means the change in work skills. Now, what are the new sought after skills? And I've picked out adaptability, flexibility, just little up. And the reason is, of all these skill sets, I think if one that matters the most, it's going to be adaptability and flexibility. If you're not going to be flexible in an organization, I tell my students, you don't have a career. Forget it. Okay, technological competence, important. Data literacy, important. Critical thinking, important. Digital skills, important. Emotional intelligence, leadership competence, all important. But I still think, and I'm sure we will, if we have the opportunity, we can discuss, but I still think adaptability and flexibility absolutely is the most important of this new sought after skill sets by corporates. It's incredibly important because I know that when recruiters come to us, they say, hey, we want somebody who can really be flexible things. We don't want them to get locked in sort of one area. Now, what are the forces changing the future? There is technological. This is a very interesting report from PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's called The Competing Forces Shaping 2030. So they talk about, technological breakthroughs, demographic shifts, resource scarcity, urbanization. In a country like India, it's obviously very important, and shifts in global economic power. Some very, very interesting points the PricewaterhouseCoopers report mentions, how and what changes and what shapes the next 10 years, the next decade that we're interested in. I love the slide because it actually talks about what are the drivers of change. So, you have AI, you have crowdsourcing, Internet of Things, big data, cloud tech. All of these are technological drivers of change that today are also impacting businesses massively. I wanted to spend 1 or 2 minutes on this workforce transition in time of automation, but I will just skip this slide. I'll show you this slide. This is actually more interesting. So this came from the McKinsey report, and it shows what are the percentage of jobs at risk by country. And they did a lot of analysis. They did developed markets, they did emerging markets, East Asia. So in the US, they said 38% of jobs are at risk because of automation. In the UK, 30%. Japan said 21%, and Germany said 35%. So these are, CEOs, employees who've been surveyed, and they felt that these percentage of jobs are going to be at massive risk because of automation. Now, this is question, what should be the focus of management education, right? And if you haven't read this report, this is an incredible Deloitte Insights report. And this Deloitte Insights report, Deloitte runs this Dean's Conference. First of all, I'm not sure if you've been there, but they run this Dean's Conference each year. And this year, it was on the future of, last year, actually, it was the future of education. And what they had was this foundation pillars. So they said, like an organization, like a corporate, B schools in particular need to have a forward-looking leadership, number one, have a growth mindset, and business schools should now redesign the entire learning model. And that was the foundation pillars that Deloitte actually put out. But interestingly, what they also did, that they had the 6 key stakeholders. And they said to have and this is very specific about India though, so to have a revamped higher education sector, they said you need 6 key stakeholders. Number one, the government has got to play an incredibly important role, be it AICTE or UGC or whatever that happens to be, right? Regulators and the whole Ministry of Education. Industry, which of all areas, I think industry to me is the most important for a B school. The industry, university, business school connect. Faculty, of course, you want to have extremely well-trained faculty who are able to change the pedagogy depending on what sort of situation we are in. Students, parents, and alumni. So the future of education from Deloitte talks about how do you move to what they call a student-centric or student-centricity sort of focused education. And you want to revamp this entire education sector. Now, finally, I'll just talk a little bit about the B schools. I've always found, at least the last 4 years since I've been a director, I've been engaging with hundreds of corporates and large companies, and I meet the CEOs, the CFOs, spend a lot of time talking to them about what we do as a school and what it is that they actually want, right? So one of the things I've always felt in a number of places that the collaboration for some reason doesn't happen. And I'm a great fan, and that's why when the topic was going to start, I'd love to talk a little bit about it, because, you know, I want to be able to see employers, sort of, you know, inculcate the right skills in employees, but I also want the B schools to be able to design courses that has the needs of the global sort of workplace. I'll give you two very simple examples. We just changed the curriculum at TAPME, and we told our students, we want you to do some courses on the science of COVID pandemic run by Imperial College London. Why? I mean, why should I know about forest fires? Why should I know how to model forest fires in Australia? I mean, I think students should not simply do management courses. You want them to do multidisciplinary courses. You want them to pick an anthropology course, a sociology course, something from physics, you know, something on the art of writing, you know, communication. I've actually seen, believe me, the entire communication modules have changed at TAPME. We are now talking about communication in a virtual age. And that is not the same as what you did 1 year ago, right? So we picked up a course from Duke and we said, do this communication in virtual age. That is very different. Internet ethics, you know, how do you look at the camera? How is your voice modulation? Do you have your camera turned off? I mean, all of those little things also matter when you're getting interviewed. So invest continuously in new modes of pedagogy, which is something that we do and which all business schools should also think about. Finally, I thought I'll have a little bit of an entrepreneurial mindset. I'll close with this slide. I hope I've not exceeded my time. But, you know, modern business curriculum needs a bit of entrepreneurship. And we are not doing a great job of this. I must confess at the outset that, you know, we are not in the space right yet, but something that I'm really thinking we should. And it's not just some data for functional skills or whatever, but, you know, we want students to have the capacity to interpret, analyze, and dealing with corporate crisis. I mean, what is a business school? What should a business school do? Business schools are supposed to be extremely meaningful to society. You're supposed to be able to solve problems. You know, corporates come to you with hundreds of problems, and you're supposed to help solve those problems, right? I mean, you might have a societal problem for which is a corporate solution. You might have a corporate problem that a company is facing, and as business school, you've got to get in there and try and solve the problem. That's what I think that's an entrepreneurial mindset, which students don't sometimes have, right? So I think these are some thoughts I had in mind, Professor Bala and other panelists. I will leave it there, but I know I've sort of gone really fast because I had a time constraint, but I hope there is a little bit that we can discuss. I hope to stay back for some more time, but that's where I will leave. I hope this sort of connected with what he had in mind.
Exceedingly well, Madhu. Thank you very much. It was a very detailed presentation.
I will share the slides with you later. I will unshare them so that if other panelists have, I'll stop sharing this. Is it okay with you?
Yes, that's right.
I'll stay back for some time.
But that was a very detailed presentation and I think very relevant. Two things I just wanted to point out. Probably we can discuss it even at a later time. One was, you know, in the slide where you said that according to you, one of the most important skill sets would be adaptability and flexibility among all the other things, which are also important. That struck me, number one. The second is in terms of management education, which I guess applies even for other domains of education, is there has to be transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, whatever you call it, it has to be there. And people, even in management education, need to learn something about maybe anthropology, psychology, or sociology, or whatever, including music and art and everything else. You need to understand. That also I thought was a very relevant point. And the third, I like the approach you took in terms of explaining first the future of work itself. And look, all of us, some of us keep saying it, but I don't know whether it has been internalized. Yes. We really understand the meaning of what we are saying, that the future of work will be different. The work itself, you know, the gig economy and things like that, you will not have a 9-to-5 job. You will just probably have modules of work, small bits of work for which you get paid. that kind of a thing. Mindset wise, I think it has a lot to do with the mindset. That point also is very valid, Madhu. So thank you very much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the liberty of bringing in Prashant at this point of time. I want him to look at it and tell us from the industry perspective, particularly a man from the technology industry, like Prashant. Now let us hear Prashant. Are you okay, Prashant, with that?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
I would like you to respond and also make your opening remarks. Thank you, Madhu.
Yes, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bala and Dr. Madhu. Very insightful remarks. Really enjoyed, and I think Professor Bala crisply captured some of the key points that you made. I've been asked to, kind of give an industry flavor to this and what we are seeing. So if you look at it, one of the biggest challenges that we face in the industry is that the concept of digital transformation itself is very nebulous, right? What is this digital transformation all about? Where does it begin? Does it have an end? And is there a specific way to go ahead and do it? So there are so many questions that are actually about. The way one book, so I know we in the industry also rely a lot, at least I rely a lot on some thought leaders in the industry, in academia, who have given me a lot of light on how we can approach this problem for customers as well. And one of the books that I read and it's kind of internalized within me is this book by Professor Rogers at Columbia Business School. He talks about the pillars of digital transformation, and he describes 5 pillars, and that's customers, competition, it's data, there's innovation, and then there's value. So it's customers, competition, data, innovation, and value. So these are 5 pillars of digital transformation, and as you can see, there's no technology as such here, right? And that's the whole point. A lot of times digital transformation is thought about as applying or deploying something shiny, the ML and the AI and the IoT. I mean, these are buzzwords. These will come and these will go. But what really is required is how do you adapt these technologies and deliver outcomes. And the effects of digital, of not having a digital strategy or digital first strategy or digital transformation strategy is very apparent. If you look at all the historical failures, I'm sure these failures have been discussed threadbare in every business school. But a blockbuster would not have failed if they had a digital strategy, right? They just thought that physical was the only way to go. Every company, and we can list this, and I'm sure this audience has done that, so I'm not going to delve into all those historical case studies, but the point I'm really trying to make is that digital transformation is a question of survival. And it is not about, and it is just not about getting faster or more optimized, which is what technology used to do in the early days. Technology used to automate, technology used to make things faster, more efficient, reduce costs. All those still continue. But I think here, the problem that we're really trying to address is that how does digital transformation ensure the survival of a business? And if you look at data, right, data tells us that, for example, if you look at the Standard & Poor's index, S&P 500, the lifetime of a company in the S&P 500, so we're not talking about small companies, we're talking about highly successful companies. These companies, the lifetime has been coming down drastically from what used to be 30 to 40 years to less than double digit right now. And it's predicted to go down even further. And we are seeing this. What used to be an iconic application like Facebook is struggling, right? People are not questioning, does Facebook have a business model? Thankfully, they acquired Instagram, and thankfully, we have WhatsApp. But that's a larger discussion. The point is businesses which were the darling of a particular era. And when I say era, we're not talking about decades back. I'm talking about 5 years back, 3 years back. These are called into question. So in the face of all this, how does a traditional business, a brick and mortar business, evolve and face these challenges? And that's why we need to go back to those 5 pillars, right? I just talked about. And that is how an organization has to approach digital transformation within. So it's just not about applying tools and buzzwords. It's about looking at your business across these 5 pillars, and then ensuring that you are set up for long-term success, and that you are able to look at competition, not just competition which exists today, but competition which will come tomorrow. For instance, there's this concept of unbundling. Unbundling is where a large monolithic business is eaten away, like piranha, by smaller competition. So the competition, say, for a State Bank of India is not going to come from another gigantic bank like the State Bank of India, but it's going to come from these new age digital companies, which will literally, nibble away at various aspects of their business: digital payments, bank transfers, loan automation, and then before you know it, so State Bank is like looking in the horizon. Oh, where is the next big monolith that's going to come and hit me? It's not that. It's right. It's just swimming around your feet, and then you'll find yourself suddenly immersed in a tank full of these piranha, and that's when it hits you. Oh, it's too late. So that is why a digital transformation strategy is important, and which is why, as a technology person, I do not wish to talk about technology, because it's not about technology when it comes to digital transformation. It is it's about these 5 pillars, and that's how we approach this discussion with customers. So when we talk to customers about the technology business, about digital transformation, the way we envision is literally to look at is as a service, because digital transformation, like I talked about earlier, is not something that has a beginning and an end. It is something that needs to be done as a continuous process. So we are focusing on what we call as DTAS, or digital transformation as a service. And the way we look at it, again, is purely from a non-technology way. So we are helping customers. For instance, the first and foremost thing is, how do you lay a foundation for success? How do you ensure that you're able to grow without constraints? How, as a company, are you able to innovate without fear? How, as a company, can you go ahead and secure your business? Security is becoming so important, right? It's an existential crisis. It is not about an inconvenience anymore. It is about existential threats. How, as a company, can you empower and take advantage of your people, your human capital, and ensure that you're able to do a lot of things together? And most importantly, every company has a huge amount of data with them. How do you ensure that you are able to put this data to work? So I think this is the way in which digital transformation really needs to be addressed. Now, there are 2 aspects that I probably want to, angles in which I probably want to address or look at this panel discussion. Now, one is the impact of digital transformation on education, which is a vertical, industry vertical by itself, right? So then, you have the usual things like, okay, online is coming. So is it online, is it offline, or is it a mix of both? And what technologies, Dr. Modi talked about Coursera. So is it Coursera, is it Khan Academy, all this, or is it Byju's, our local 800-pound gorilla, which is reshaping the market. There is an app now. There's this app which has come out only for music learning music. So people are now creating, seeing the success that Byju's has had. Now there are next unicorns are going to emerge in very specific areas: music, sports. I don't know if sports can be taught online, but I'm sure somebody is going to crack the problem. So that's one aspect of it, and I think you already delved on that, and there are far more qualified people to talk about it than I can. But I think looking at my position and looking at the kind of talent that I want to keep acquiring for my business, and how I would like this talent to be shaped so that we are able to then deliver these outcomes for our clients, is that the way a business school student needs to be taught about digital is not by learning, a subject, systems management, as we used to learn when I studied, or whatever it's called right now, or it's not about adding an AI or ML component to your syllabus, but it's about fundamentally learning to reimagine the way you address problems at work. And I love that aspect of entrepreneurial mindset that you talked about, the problem solving mindset that you talked about, because that's exactly what is required. So frequently I've always noticed that people who come there are two kinds of people I obviously, right? One, people who come to me with problems saying that help me solve this. Two, people who have attempted solving the problem and then are going to come to me saying that how do I optimize this? Or I've tried these 5 things, and I'm not getting success. Those are the kind of people that I've seen historically are the people who have succeeded and grown. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset. That's the mindset that we really want to inculcate. And that's what I would love this galaxy of academic thought leaders to focus on as you prepare your students for the future. So less on the technology aspect of it, that's definitely required, but that's just like, learning, the basics. It's just alphabets, but how do you string these alphabets and create words and sentences and books and poems? That's where the magic really happens. So that's the way I would really look at it. And before I conclude, I also think I should talk about one aspect of the decision making, right? That's transforming, which is data-driven decision making. It's not a new concept, but you'll be surprised to see how many companies actually don't adopt it, right? And we come across this concept of hippo, right? I love talking about this because hippo is the highest paid person's opinion, and that doesn't sell anymore. What really sells is decisions that are driven by data and analytics, and that's where students should learn to apply, because today everything in the world is tracked, right? If you take your phone, your Google Maps knowingly or unknowingly has tracked every single move you made over, ever since you bought the phone or ever since you signed up for the Google account. I don't know if you've checked it, please log in and see that. Every aspect of our lives is today tracked and monitored. So there's plenty of data to be had. How do you put this data to work for you, and how do you adopt a data-driven decision framework? Now that requires a fundamental rewiring of the way management education is taught, right? And that's what we would love to see as people from the industry, from thought leaders and eminent academicians such as yours. So that's my opening remark, as well as some of the thoughts that I had. Thank you, Professor Bala.
Thank you, Prashant. As usual, very succinct and very precise. Prashant, there are 2 points which struck me among the many points that you raised. One is, we are talking about the very survival of businesses and survival of companies, and where the lifetime cycle seems to be narrowing down over the years. And I remember in 1982, there was a book called In Search of Excellence by Tom and Peters. And according to that book, which was done after almost 20 years of research, by the year 2000, 50% of the companies which have been mentioned in that book as excellent companies did not even exist. But that was the kind of a change that was happening even at that time. And today's time, you are very right, that it's getting narrowed down probably to 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, etc., etc. And I like the way you put it when you said the era is no longer in decades. Era is in terms of a few years, 2 years, 3 years, that you call it an era. I liked it very much. That was one point. The second, I like the particular aspect you said, where you gave the example of State Bank of India, for example, and you said, look, it may not be another giant bank which will make you irrelevant. It may be small players who may take away and who may change the game of one small module of your work. If you say banking has got 20 different operations, maybe there will be small companies niggling away at one of these modules and so on and so forth. By the time you wake up, you have collapsed already. Now, that is something that you need to realize. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I'm sure that we will be having lots of discussions. At this point, I would like to bring in Ida. Are you there?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Ida, would you like to come in at this point of time and tell us Malaysian perspective or the global perspectives on this particular issue?
Sure. Okay.
Bala, sorry for the interruption. And to all the panelists, I will have to leave now because the interview is about to begin. I thank you for your patient hearing, and Prashant, wonderful talk. I'll connect with you a bit later if that's okay with you.
Yes. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Ida, it's all yours. Okay.
Okay. All right. I wonder if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today, and very informative and just a greater understanding of what's happening in a very slightly different context in Malaysia. So I am speaking as an academic, also as a teacher trainer in higher education, and also from a Malaysian setting. So if you look at let me just make it bigger. Okay, so the report that was mentioned previously by one of the speakers in terms of the World Economic Forum, the top 10 skills of 2025, there is a significant difference in terms of what is needed within the 5 years. And the top 4 includes skills such as problem solving, self-management, working with people, technology use and development. So there is a shift there, and in terms of higher education, what needs to happen is a reimagining of higher education and the role we play, especially when it comes to how we curate that curriculum now to make sure that when our graduates complete their studies, they are able to have these skills and are employable. So there's also something that was listed that is new, that is critical thinking and problem solving. That's definitely something that is new. And also newly emerging are skills such as self-management. So that includes active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. So I believe this is something that is, I think Prashant mentioned as well, this is something that, one of the soft skills that is needed from our graduates. So from my takeaway from this, as an academic in the higher education in the Malaysian context, when we design our curriculums, because I look after School of Design and Arts, we have to think outside the box. So we have to think of what industry needs and somehow try to close that gap between what happens in higher ed so that they are more prepared, or in fact, when they're in their final year or internship, they're already ready for the workplace. So we try to curate programs which are integrating work-integrated learning. We also have a lot of input from industry, especially when it comes to assessments and brief. So we also create very hybrid programs. For example, one that I can think of on top of my head is management and digital media. So where we combine business management and digital media. So there's the creative content creation aspect as well. So this is something that we get from industry in terms of what is needed, and also in terms of matching what is needed in terms of skills that is required for them. So I can think of 5 implications that I can share. I'm sure others might have something else to add as well later on. So in terms of the assessment, this has to change. So, not just because of the pandemic that has occurred, in terms of assessment, how we look at or measure skills in a sense. So it has to, one way we could do it is in terms of having, a standardized test. We have it project-based. So because careers have to adapt to a freelance economy, so we need to make sure our students can adapt to project-based learning and working, because demands in the workplace is very different from what is expected in the higher education. So that means they have to learn how to apply their skills in shorter terms to a variety of situations. So that is something that students should be already acquainted with, during their studies. Secondly, what I feel is something that we need to work on as well, especially in higher ed, is in terms of field experience. So there's always this gap. They feel that, once you're done with your graduation, and then when you go to the workforce, there's that training that needs to happen. So somehow to reduce that, perhaps having that field experience, again, that work integrated learning, having a certain period of time when they're placed in companies, learning, as they, and also gaining exposure and experience. And because technology can facilitate more efficiency in certain domains, so when we design or curate our curricula, we can make sure that these skills are enhanced in this field experience. So our schools, our curriculum, the universities should provide more opportunities for students to obtain these real world skills that, we talk about trying to solve case studies, look at case studies in classrooms, but we need to prepare this and put them in that situation so that they are learning as they go. In terms of mentoring, I feel mentoring has become so significant now in terms of the skills that's needed. So we want them to be independent, yes, in the learning process, but mentoring, so that's where the teacher role is starting to shift as well. So instead of teacher-centered, which tends to happen in Malaysian setting, I see there is a shift now because of the pandemic and because of the online situation. Now it's student-centered. We have to change everything to student-centered. So now we see mentoring has become more and more important. So this is where I see the role of teachers. They will be a central point. Teachers will still play that significant role. So, to help students navigate the wealth of information that is out there. So they play more of this mentoring role, I feel. And although technology is rapidly, evolving, the role of the teachers, the human connection, the interaction is still the heart of education, I feel. And we see this, as teachers, as academics, as researchers as well, that feeling of isolation, loss of that community. I noticed that in 2020 when my students expressed that, I'm struggling, I don't have that network of support that I tend to have in classrooms. So for teachers, that is still the heart of it. Technology is the tool, but when we design, when we curate our curriculum, how we teach, student engagement, that still needs to be front and center. And I think the fifth one that I think as one of the other implication is in terms of the higher education role. So what I saw during this disruption, there's a lot of collaborative practices. In fact, there's a lot of collaborative practices, not just within the academia itself, but also with a lot of our stakeholders. Like Swinban has a lot of strategic partners because we are partly owned by the state government. So we work closely with the government or with other stakeholders. So in terms of collaboration, there's almost like a ecosystem because we're all in this together in this pandemic. We try to figure out how do we solve all these issues. So there is almost a sense of higher ed helping out in terms of, yes, we are providing the skills, we are training them, the workforce, but we're also providing the resources in a sense in terms of the training, the infrastructure that we have in Swinban. For example, I'm looking after the School of Design and Arts. We have Adobe, we are an Adobe campus. So that kind of content creation, a lot of softwares, we are able to do that. And we work with the government in terms of helping SMEs or certain groups that are trying to create content for their entrepreneurship activities. So it's almost an ecosystem. So I feel that there is a need to expedite a lot of things, and this ecosystem that we are curating through the role of the higher ed is helping out in terms of upskilling and the skills that I mentioned earlier that they need for 2025. So things like problem solving, self-management, technology use and development. How do we do this with the limited resources that we have and the fact that we are unable to interact face-to-face? So there is a growing ecosystem, and I feel that it's good that there is a collaborative effort there with government, higher ed, and community. So just to share, even where I am right now, I am in the city, but not all the time I have a stable internet. So we do face those issues. So what can we do that is high-tech and low-tech that can help address all these issues that we're facing? I think that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ida. Excellent presentation. Ida, a couple of things struck me. And you also spoke about the newer sets of skills which are required to be acquired by the students. But one particular aspect that you mentioned about mentoring, that struck me very clearly, because I think many of us, we seem to be sort of overlooking that aspect of mentoring. Mentoring becomes extremely critical in these times. That is one issue. The second point that you were talking about, collaborative efforts during this pandemic and otherwise, and you mentioned about your belief that nothing can substitute this physical classroom experience. Being an educator myself, I tend to agree with you, but I think it's going to be a great challenge for all of us. I think this challenge is not going to be resolved anytime soon. It's going to be in our minds. We need to think about it a lot. We need to find a solution for that, because as Vijay Tadani was mentioning during the inaugural session, this is something which is going to be there. It has to be a hybrid solution. I don't think we are going to have a physical in-person class experience alone. I think online education is here to stay. There has to be a hybrid. Now, what proportion, etc., that is something which needs to be thought about. Thank you very much, Ida. I would like to bring in at this point of time Maya. Maya, in particular, she not only represents the industry, but even within that industry, she also takes a lot of interest in the academic part. And therefore, she is quite familiar with the academia. Maya, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for this opportunity. So I'll start with a few problem statements that I want to throw in front of this audience. So the first problem statement, and imagine you're a management graduate, or I mean, all of your experts. So the problem statement from an IT services industry perspective, one of the problem statement is, we are seeing that managers are not very engaged with their teams. So in an employee survey, the results are showing that the managers, supervisors are not really engaged, and the employees are raising the concern, or more than concern, they are expressing their feeling that they don't feel connected with the organization. And this is leading to multiple issues like lack of intrinsic motivation, lack of commitment to work, and higher attrition. Now, as a management expert or a team that comes together to put together a strategy to solve this problem, if this is a problem statement given to a management graduate or a set of experts, how do you come up with the strategy itself? Okay, one. Second, another problem statement, something very specific to what I'm going through today. So today I head the campus program, right? We select more than like 25-30,000 students from various engineering colleges in India. We just finished that in November, December. And one of the things I saw very prevalent in this year's virtual campus selection is high levels of cheating and malpractice by students. Now, suppose I throw this problem statement to a set of management graduates saying that this is a reality. We are going to do campus placements in a virtual way. And there is a higher levels, right? Because now it's all virtual. Otherwise, it used to be in campus, in classroom. So there was no option to do much of a malpractice. But today, I see that some of the best colleges also have high number of students who are trying to cheat the system. When I say cheat the system, like I'm taking the test, I see the video is capturing that this person is looking into different things and asking someone. There is another phase, taking print screens, toggling. So there are enough evidences to say that there is malpractice. Now the question to the management consulting team is, okay, how do you bring change in behaviors in students for them to build the value and culture to be to develop the integrity, right, and ethics from the college itself, so that in the test when you see this, we are like, now I'm worried, like what kind of a supply chain am I bringing into the organization, right, where there is this distrust, so to say. But the problem is not that. I'm telling that if these are the problem statements, I can go on and on the customer problem statements as well. Prashant spoke about digital transformation. A daily question that comes to us, whether it is a small firm or a big firms like Walmart or Bank of America, their daily challenge is that they have a set of applications and IT systems that are running. They are keeping their lights on. we call it as the green box, right? Things are running well. At the same time, they need to transform to bring agility and customer satisfaction, the boundaries between industries are blurring. So they have to take money from the green and put it into the blue. I mean, blue is the new. At the same time, running with high profits, their stakeholder system need to be happy, all of that. Digital transformation at its core. How do you do that? So take any of this problem statement that I'm telling you. I can go on and on and give you another 50 problem statements today. Management graduates are expected to understand and provide a approach, a strategy, at least take it a step forward for all of us. So we all come from technology background. We are looking at management graduates. So we brought in, like into my team, I brought a few management graduates from top institutes. So I asked one of the person, okay, so what's your aspiration? What do you want to do in life? Here, so he said, I'm ready to work 24/7. I think in management schools, that's what they are taught. I have not done it, but that was his reaction. He's saying, I'm ready to work 24/7. I said, okay, but I have other problem statements that you have to work on. So he said, see, I've done a lot of projects in my college where I put together solutions. I said, okay, did you apply it anywhere? Did it solve anything? He said, I don't know, but this is what I had to present to my to the group, I mean, which evaluates. I said, okay, 3 years from now, what do you want to do? So he said, see, my passion is something else. I want to create a firm that will help students pursue their passion, which could be agriculture, which could be anything. So look at him. No, he's a top school, B school guy. All he's saying is he is ready to work 24/7. He knows certain things, but his aspiration is to really change the world in a way, which is great, But so this is like recent, just 2 months back or a month back. So what I am staring at it as a problem when you sent it to me, that challenges in management education or what need to change, I think we are staring at a much more larger challenge than what many of the panelists put here, which are all there, especially the World Economic Forum 2025 skills. I would say the active learning strategies. I think I presented elsewhere as well. I feel that's like a phenomenal point to come as a second or third as a skill. But to me, the largest or the biggest problem solving or the biggest issue that a management graduate should start dealing with is realistic problem solving and seeing whether it is applying and yielding some results in a corporate environment. So today they have a summer internship. I don't think anyone has summer and winter internship. I would say 2 years, if they are planning to be in management field, they need to continuously solve today's problems, not 10 years back problems. Today's problem, companies like Cognizant, I can speak for Cognizant from where I've been for 24 years. We've stopped putting 10-year, 5-year strategies. It doesn't make sense. What we had put as a 2020 strategy became irrelevant so fast. And when the organization puts strategies, as a board and a CEO and exec leadership, they'll have a vision to grow the company. But then what constitutes that growth? What paves a path to that growth is kind of driven by all the leaders below. So in my area, when I have to put a strategy, how will the workforce transformation be? What should be the work from home model? And that's the most debated topic. And somebody, I think initially Madhu said that Cognizant has not started going back to office. Our Coimbatore office, which hosts 16,000 employees, is still closed because it's a complex problem to solve. We cannot push employees to come. So again, that's a business problem. What's the management view towards it? And not the management view, which is at large, maybe is giving certain guidance, but what is applicable, what should be done? And that needs a lot of data analysis in an ambiguous way. I like what Prashant said. I think everybody says the data is the new oil, data is the new air, or is the air, all of that. But how do you analyze the data of the organization, outside the organization, and come with a point of view which seems implementable? I struggle with that. So when management graduates present some point of view and approach, I say, okay, how do I act on it? Give me an implementation plan also. Like you have the Scrum models, right? For a technology person, that's what we look at. Okay, all this is great, but how do I move on with this? How do I move ahead with this? So drawing to the, I want to keep it brief on my point is very simple, that today's problem solving, thinking today's hat, applying past year's learning is important, but from today's hat where technology revolution is on. It's not sequential linear evolution, right? It's revolution literally. So in such a world, as a management graduate, how are you applying technology principles, the domain boundaries that are changing? Domain specialization is very critical. Dealing with data in its ambiguous way, as well as providing some structural conclusions to that as well. All that becomes very important because all technologies are looking up to them. Though I don't come from management background, my 24 years has made me like a with the experience, right? Because we have moved from pillars to pillars. I've done work in 5 industries, so that has taken me here maybe to some extent. But when management graduates come from top institutes, we expect them to have some level of that guidance. I've seen few who have it, but I feel today's students need to have a lot more of it. That's where I would leave it, saying that problem solving with data, with practical exposure in corporates.
Thank you, Maya. Very specific. Maya, if I understand rightly, we will discuss it after everybody completes their opening remarks. But if I understand rightly, 2 things. One, you seem to be implying that today's students, particularly students of management, are sort of divorced from reality, and therefore they don't appreciate the real problems faced by the industry, particularly the technology industry, and therefore they do not have solutions to offer. That is one dimension. The second dimension, which also I think you are making, is that management education traditionally, I did my management education way back about 47 years ago. But even then, and even before that, in India, we started management education in 1961. Right from those days, the graduates of management education, they have been focusing on solving structured problems, very clearly laid down certain problems. They have been taught how to solve through problem solving and decision making and all that. This element of uncertainty or ambiguity, that has not been taught very well in management education. That is another aspect of what you are saying. We will take it up.
Yeah.
I thought I am going to give Dr. Maitri the last word because he is an expert and he has been on so many committees, and I'm going to give him the last word. Therefore, I want to bring in Tom from the Nottingham University. Tom, it's all yours, and you can probably tell us also about the UK variant of the virus.
Thank you, Professor Bala. Yes, well, I won't linger too much about the state of the UK in respect of COVID at the moment, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel for us in terms of coming out of lockdown, which is very positive for us. I hope everyone is well this morning. So I really fascinating to hear from the contributors so far, and I really want to touch on this, I guess, from a student perspective, then also from an educator's perspective, and maybe issue a bit of a challenge at the end to everyone. But I think picking up on some of the themes that have already been discussed, certainly from a student perspective, is around that mindset piece. And I think it's around understanding that the future is not certain at the moment for a number of different reasons. And I think the concept of lifelong learning, the concept of resilience are going to be incredibly important for students throughout their education, but also throughout their career as well. We're seeing a growth in the UK as well as around the world in terms of portfolio careers and the notion of a gig economy, the notion of employee loyalty and employees working for a firm for 10, 15, 20 years is reducing. We're seeing more and more of the current generation having an ambition of no more say 2 or 3 years of working for an organization before looking to change. So I think it's around very much being adaptable, being agile. And I think although we're seeing obviously a move to online in terms of learning at the moment and working and the growth of technology within roles, I think the critical element for students that they need to maintain is around building relationships. That fundamental aspect of business, of working, remains imperative to a successful career. You know, even in an online environment, you have to be able to build relationships with your colleagues, build relationships with your customers, build relationships with a whole range of stakeholders. So I think for me, it's issuing the challenge around understanding technology is important. Understanding how it's going to play a role in your future career is obviously vital, but underpinning everything is still that notion of relationship building, understanding culture, understanding how organizations operate, and then being flexible enough to work within those parameters. We often talked about with our students who are going for graduate interviews, say, or assessment centers, you know, when you go into an organization, you get a feel for the culture that they have embedded within their organization. Do they expect you to wear a suit and tie? Are they a bit more flexible with their dress code and how they operate? You know, can you go on knock on the door of the managing director and have a conversation with that person? Or is it a very kind of hierarchical system where you just deal with the person that is your immediate line manager? And it was about understanding the culture and then being able to, you know, I guess, make the decision about whether you want to work within that culture firstly, but then also how you adapt and fit in and enable yourself to progress. And although that notion of going into an office at the moment seems quite alien for us, I think that understanding of culture remains imperative. You have to be able to understand the culture and be adaptable and build those relationships. But as things continue to change, I think for students, it's a great opportunity. We often talk about within change management, that actually the biggest challenge for an organization is getting people to change with an organization's objectives, with an organization's culture. So as you know, my experiences in accounting and finance, you know, if I look at some of the big accounting and audit firms globally, significant changes in how they're operating, the technology they're utilizing within their processes in terms of automation and AI, the biggest challenge for them is getting their current employees to move with them. This is a great opportunity for the new graduating classes over the next few years to embrace that change and be adaptable to change and take those roles away from people who are resistant to change, which sounds very cutthroat in some ways, but that, you know, fundamentally, you know, you've got to go in and you've got to compete and demonstrate to the organization your value. So I think if you can have an open mindset to change, that's going to give you a fantastic opportunity to go into organizations such as Prashant's or Mayer's and demonstrate your value. And, you know, that way you're going to be able to be successful. From an educational perspective, I think for us, I absolutely agree with the points that have been raised there around application of learning, critical thinking. One of the things that we have within all of our undergraduate courses in the business school and also in our postgraduate courses is projects where students get to apply their learning on real life challenges that have been set by some of our stakeholders. So our final year undergraduates have just worked through challenges that were set by a range of organizations, some small, some large. So we work very closely with Fujitsu, who set a number of challenges as part of the project. And some of those challenges were not related to their discipline of study. So I had accounting students looking at HR related or marketing related problems. And this is, you know, forgive me, but I can't remember who mentioned around moving away from silos. And I think it was really important for our students to see that, you know, they got an opportunity to apply their learning and their critical thinking, not just on what they would associate as their subject base, but on wider business issues. And I think, although that can be a challenge for them in the first instance, why am I doing this? I'm an accounting major. Why am I looking at a marketing problem? Hopefully, upon reflection, they're able to see the skills that they've developed and how their learning and their knowledge has enabled them to have a different view on something. Again, we've got to be agile as educators. We've got to look at the lessons that we've learned over the last year, what has worked from an online delivery perspective, what are the things that we want to make sure that we return to as and when we're able to return to campus. And we've got to continue, and I think events like this are really important because we have to continue working with employers, with industry, with our alumni, with our graduates, with our professional bodies that we have links to understand what industry is telling us. Yeah, and we have to try and keep up, and it's often very challenging for educational institutions to keep up with the speed of change. But I think that's where, if we're doing our job properly, we're teaching agility, we're teaching resilience, we're embedding critical thinking, so our students are able to go out into the world and make an immediate difference. But I think all of this has to be underpinned by our values. So technology is a huge opportunity, but it is a huge challenge, and there are threats associated with the growth of technology ethically. So all of this has to be underpinned by our values. That's, to do with ethics. And it was really interesting hearing from Maya about concerns about students cheating as part of that assessment process. And we've been dealing with something similar with online examinations. How do we identify students who are colluding during kind of online examinations? So ethics is an important value that underpins this. Sustainability has to underpin this as well, and also that entrepreneurial mindset. So I think for us as a business school at Nottingham Trent University, they're the three things that really underpin what we're trying to do. We're trying to move forward, trying to ensure our students have that mindset, but they have that fundamental understanding of ethics, sustainability, and enterprise, that no matter what happens in the next 30 years, if they've got those rooted at the core of what they believe in, they'll be able to be successful. And I think therefore the challenge that I issue to people is around, for students, you have to be open to that challenge. You have to push yourself. You have to be open to personal development, be open to taking yourself wider than just what your degree subject is. For us as educators, the challenge is to keep up to date, and what can we do to make sure that we're providing relevant learning for our students and opportunities. But then also for the challenge for industry is to come and talk to our students and provide opportunities for our students to understand what's going on and give them the opportunity to reflect upon that and build their own skills. But I'm conscious of time, so I'll let you pass on to Dr. Metri.
Thank you very much, Tom. Tom, I think from what you have said just now, the point that I draw is about the domain specialization which you were mentioning. People talking about marketing or accounting or human resources management and wondering, look, I'm specializing in accounting or in financial management, and therefore, why should I know something about marketing? That raises in my mind a larger question, whether we are looking at a future when in management education, the so-called specialization will no longer exist. And management education, by definition, will become something of general management, and then people will start acquiring certain certifications in certain areas if they are pursuing a career in that particular area. Probably this is something that is a food for thought. We need to think about that. That is one point. The other point that you are mentioning is about, I think almost everyone on the panel mentioned it as well, this adaptability and the flexibility on our path, which is becoming increasingly critical. So thank you very much, Tom. If you can kindly stay on for some more time, and let's listen to my good friend, Dr. Bhimarai Maitri, As I said, he is going to have the last word before I open the floor. Bhimaraya, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Professor Balasubramanian ji. I think first of all, I must say that this is a very apt and relevant topic, the impact of digital transformation on industry, challenges for management education on occasion of Industry Day 2021. And all my distinguished colleagues, the kind of input they have given, I think extremely relevant. And some of the things, I think many of the panelists repeatedly spoke about entrepreneurial mindset, multidisciplinary and agility, and these are the some of the the change of speed of technology. All those things are going to definitely bring lot of transformation change in the education sector. So to begin with, I think I can say here that the world will always remember 2020 for three reasons. One is, all of us know that COVID, and it has affected everybody's life. Number two, a digital transformation is also because of 2020. This actionization or execution of digital transformation, the kind of speed without investing any money, right from younger age to older age, everybody learned and practiced and became a master. And that is how this 2020 will be always remembered, for faster transformation of actionizing a digital transformation. Apart from that, the third and most important reason to remember 2020 is the planet, Mother Earth is laughing. Less pollution, and that is one. And this new normal part, if you look at the digital transformation, looking at the three questions, so digital transformation is bringing five important, radical transformation. So digital transformation bringing five important radical transformation. One is about sharpening the decision making and also speeding the decision making. Number two, creating value. Third radical transformation due to digital transformation is allocation of resources. Many of my distinguished panelists talked about. Third one is even Maya talked about optimization of efficiency and effectiveness. And next, most important, is reducing the digital divide this digital transformation is affecting. Apart from that, offering variety of new products and services. So these are the radical transformation due to digital transformation. Now, if you look at the digital transformation, it goes much beyond automation, much beyond technology, physical infrastructure, even information technology infrastructure and communication. It is much more than that. But only question is here, this digital transformation, whatever happened in the corporate world, that has its effect on the business education. So in business education, how to align the business education with the corporate world, or the speed of the corporate world, how to catch up. So there, if you look at the keeping end in mind, as I think Madhu and many speakers rightly talked about. So keeping end in mind, if you look at the corporate world, the changes happened are, one is the students after graduating, the moment they enter into the corporate world, the role which they prepared themselves, probably it may be taken by the robots, repetitive jobs. So that role will not be available. They have to pick up something softer or something strategic in nature, or something for which data is not available. I think we all talked about data. If there is a data available, those jobs are taken by the robots. So where data is not there, history is not there, such jobs are available for the students of the management schools. So it means students, we have to make them ready for unknown roles in unborn companies. So it means what kind of skills we have to prepare, whether it is a World Economic Forum, whatever the skills, order may change, but many times, if you see a history of many years, these were there, but they are in different intensity and different dimensions. These skills were there. But orders will be keep on changing along with the time. Now, if you look at all these, any kind of businesses, there are 5-6 outcomes are important for MBA students. So one is we can talk about the leadership and teamwork. Second one is communication. Probably communication may also disappear if software comes in that and any language will come into picture, not only English. Third one is the most important one is critical thinking and innovative problem solving. And the next one is a domain knowledge. That is also important. Apart from that, social responsiveness and business ethics. So these are the few skills, irrespective of what kind of jobs, what kind of roles they are required. Now, preparing the students for this kind of roles, because roles keep on changing, and the moment jobs, people, business cycle, I think talked about it is, it is completely reducing, and probably according to one statistics, it has come down to 23 years or so. So if this kind of reduction in business cycle and skilling, reskilling, upskilling are required, that is why there is a need of liquid workforce. Now business schools are ready to prepare the liquid workforce. Liquid workforce is nothing but lifelong learning. We have to prepare them for lifelong learning, not for only degree. Now, lifelong learning includes skilling, upskilling, reskilling, learning, unlearning, and new learning. Now, new learning is very easy to do, but unlearning is one important part, fundamental assumptions, fundamental principles that they have to unlearn. And without that, we cannot move ahead, because those wrong assumptions, if we keep and if you go ahead, probably we will not get the result. So keeping these things in mind, what kind of business education we should provide so that we can equip our students for the tomorrow's work and workplace. So how to equip the students? The way we are, our curriculum is there, that is to be changed. So we have to keep two things in mind in the curriculum. One is multidisciplinary approach, as Balasubramaniam ji. So you are a stalwart in industry as well as a great leader in academic area. So you know that this is the one area, multidisciplinary is extremely important for holistic, building holistic human being. Apart from that, we also keep in mind sustainable development goals of United Nations, which is also talked about in NEP 2020. So out of 17, 4 belongs to education sector. So how to incorporate SDGs in our curriculum. And then second is the change of order of our 3 important objectives of the MBA education. One is, we talk about values, that is being. Second one is a knowledge, knowing. Third one is a doing. So all these 3, being, knowing, and doing. And now one more is going to come out of, apart from these 3, that is building capability. Now knowing is available with Google, and being, it is all about, we have to incorporate the courses like multidisciplinary and also incorporate the courses like Indian ethos. So for and social responsibility and sustainability kind of things, that is a part of being. Now the most important one is the order has changed from knowledge to skill. Competency has taken over the knowledge in the business school to prepare them for the corporate world. And whatever the today, but tomorrow that competency is not going to be sufficient alone. We have to build capability. We have to shape the mindset. We have to develop the mindset. And it is building skill is very easy, but developing mindset, a different kind of pedagogy we need. So the kind of pedagogy, whatever currently we are using, highly the case-based Harvard, we have, because it is coming from America, we have popularized. But now the time has come that developing mindset, we need to use simulation and business game, and digital transformation is going to help a big way for gaming. Because as and when you you start playing the game with other participants, you learn, you relearn, and you also new learning takes place. And you also make the decision and you do the mistake, you again recorrect it, again you make a re-decision. So you can sharpen your skill in decision making, and that can be evaluated through gaming. It is not for scoring whatever the traditional assessment, it is not possible. But as and when you proceed in the game, you do number of mistakes, you take number of decisions, and this is that game itself is a phenomena, itself is a context. In this digital world, contexts are changing very often. It is like a fluid. I call it as it is a world is instead of digital world. We are going to do a conference in coming December. We are going to call it as a conference on leading the fluid world, managing the business in fluid world. So fluid means F stands for future is fluid. L, leadership is fluid because context is changing. Leadership has to change whether leaders are change or not. Leaders will change or not. Leadership style has to change. And U means uncertainty in the context. A context is unimaginable contexts are coming because of disruption and digital technology. So context is fluid like a water. Now I indicates intellectual capital, that intellectual capital is a liquid workforce. So that is also fluid. And D indicates digital strategy, as Madam rightly said, that strategy for 20 years, 30 years is not going to work out. The emergent strategy is going to work out. That strategy is also fluid strategy. So each word of the fluid indicate the future work and workplace. So such kind of corporate world, we have to prepare our students in such a fluid structure. Then our teaching has to be, our pedagogy has to be phenomena-based learning. Our pedagogy has to be project-based learning. So in phenomena, PBL, phenomena-based learning, it is very popular in Finland, and they are successfully implemented. And another one is, project-based learning. Both are a little bit different. But whether you take phenomena-based learning, phenomena means a context. Now, in that context, a team of faculty members, for example, merger and acquisition is a project. It is given. It is a phenomena. Now, professors from OBHR, professors from finance, professor from strategy, professor from information technology, because one is using Oracle, one is using SAP. You have to integrate. Two companies in two different ITs are using ERPs. So you need a team of faculty member from, means basically cross-functional team of faculty member. They will be guiding the students, and students will taking this as a mission, this as a project, and they will deliver the innovative solution that. So this is the way if you teach a group teaching, team teaching, and the phenomena, and out of that phenomena, how to find out the innovative solution. Similarly, we can think about earthquake, we can think about tsunami, we can think about COVID. These are all phenomena, these are all the context. And then faculty, instead of standalone teaching in the classroom, that is not going to give the solution, that is not going to save the mindset. If you really want to develop the mindset, this kind of teaching is important. Then students develop their mindset. And Indians are already, I think I always say Indians are known for context. And Western world, Europeans and Americans are known for concepts and model. The moment earthquake happens, tsunami happens, COVID happens, no Harvard article or Harvard school is going to help us. But Indians, within no time, they set it right. Orissa, within no time, tsunami was set it right. But in America, Katrina happened, they took 2 years because somebody will collect the data, somebody will put into the BCG matrix, and somebody will implement, somebody will, monitor. But in India, we are known for firefighting, and context is nothing but firefighting. And that is how all the leading companies in the world, probably Indians are leading. They have not studied from Harvard, they have not studied from Wharton or any top school. They are all studied from Indian school, but leading the top schools, because where there are no roads, if you want to build a road, then they always look towards Indian, whether it is a GMAT, whether it is IBM, whether it is Harvard, Srikant Datar, or whether it is Google or Microsoft. They are all studied in India, Indian schools, which are not known like those schools, but we are best in contextual dealing. So that is how the time has come, contextual leadership. And for MBA, we need three kinds of skill. I think all the distinguished, my predecessors have talked about, we need a good manager from out of MBA. Three important traits are required, or I can say three important things. Broad outcome, end indicator from MBA is: one is a good manager, second one is a good leader, third one is entrepreneurial mindset. Now, there is a myth about entrepreneur means people think you have to start a company or you have to work in your family business, but it is entrepreneurial mindset is required even if you want to join some company. So these three are extremely important, and that is where there is a need of an hour today. We have to totally think about 3 R's: radical rethinking of MBA education, radical redesign of MBA education, and radical rebuilding of MBA education for tomorrow's work and workplace, so that our people can lead the unknown jobs in unknown companies. And to do this, a focus has to be one on curriculum, including interdisciplinary approach and SDGs. And second one is we have to focus on the pedagogy. Pedagogy has to be not only case-based, it has to be, gamification, simulations, engage the students, involve the students, they sharpen their decision making. Whatever the skills we can't assess in current traditional assessment method, curiosity, leadership, empathy, all these kind of traits we can assess through gamifications or simulations or project-based learning or phenomena-based learning. So that kind of pedagogy or environment we have to create. Outside the classroom, students learn a lot. Even if they visit to, say, for example, Singapore, they treat Singapore as a classroom and they have to come out with the learning outcomes. The way they learn in classroom, even they go for immersion program, that itself is a great learning. So that kind of MBA education, even today, we have, because of digital technology and this all the transformation, we can have 4 partners all over, all the partners, one student from our business school, one from Australia, one from Russia, one from UK. All these 4 students, they have their mentors from respective business schools take up one project. And you know that when there is a midnight in Australia, maybe afternoon in Russia, maybe early in the morning in the UK, and maybe sometime in India, different timing, different cultures, how to work together, basically cross-cultural management we learn out of this global virtual project. Such kind of courses we have to introduce so the students learn a lot from each other, from different continents, and also different contexts, different cultures, different phenomena, so that they can take up the job in MNCs and they can lead and they can successfully, without fear and with full courage and confidence, they can deal with the unknown, like, disruptive context. So this is what I just want to say. And learning outcomes, I think 5, 6, I always, whenever I talk to industry, my friends, many times they say that you people don't teach what we want. But I tell you, these are the 5, 6 traits. Domain knowledge, today T-learning is required. I think you brought out very important point when Tom was discussing. So T-learning is important. One, domain knowledge and general knowledge about other things. So this future belongs to T-learning, and then other expertise you can get from others. So this is what our future management education I can see. And with this, I'll stop here. And the 3 change in order, what I was talking about, shaping the mindset is the number 1 priority. Skilling is number 2. Knowledge comes 3, and being has to be always. It is always inside us. It has to be there. So value means, that is how we introduce Indian ethos in Indian B schools, AICT curriculum. That has to be there. That is given. That is a food. Values, but the order has to be capability, competency, and knowledge. So this is the way priorities have changed along with the time, along with the digital transformation. Thank you very much for inviting me, Professor Balasubramaniam. You are always my good friend and my mentor. And thank you very much for giving me opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maitri. It was a wonderful presentation. In fact, I was wondering whether I was listening to an exposition on the national education policy, because you covered so much and I was really believing in that. I like the way you use that acronym FLUID. That was very, very impressive, and your own definitions you gave for that. That was very nice. And the way you said about the phenomenon-based learning, which is something similar to project-based learning. In fact, even the national education policy talks a lot about this so-called internship being extended over a longer period of time.
Right.
And therefore, that is very much required. I'm sure you have heard that Dr. Shrikant Dattar, who is assuming office as the Dean of Harvard,
Right.
he wrote that book on MBA.
Yeah.
He had mentioned about the knowing, doing, and being components of management education. Unfortunately, the emphasis on the doing and the being, which he wanted, because knowing, as you rightly said, thanks to Google, it's already there, plenty. Now, the question is the doing and the being. How do we incorporate that? So, thank you very much, Dr. Maitri. Before I leave the floor open for questions and I interact with all the panel speakers, may I request everyone present here to come on camera. Switch on your camera. We want to take a group picture. All of you kindly come on camera. We want to have a group picture. Dr. Sabarajan, CTM. May I have CTM as well on camera? Excellent. Very good. Okay. All right. So we'll just take a group picture. If all of you can force yourself to smile. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. The floor is open, but one of the questions I saw on YouTube, because our session is being live streamed on YouTube, and one of the questions I saw there was very fascinating. One of the viewers had asked, when we talk about this digital transformation, by any chance, have we left behind the bottom of the pyramid? Is there a digital divide, not only in India, but maybe in Malaysia, maybe in United Kingdom? Is there a digital divide? Would somebody like to take it up, that question?
Yeah, I can take it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think digital divide is there right from metros to, if you talk about India, so India to Bharat, there is a digital divide. If you go to the remotest villages, a bandwidth, connectivity issues, and probably I can say from my institute, we have got about 45 students on our campus, those who are not having the connectivity and bandwidth issues in their own villages and smaller towns. They have come to IIM Nagpur to avail those facilities for online classes. Digital divide is there, but Government of India, as far as India is concerned, they initiated Digital India program. Through Digital India program, so this gap is going to be closed faster than fast. Currently it is there, but I think this will disappear very soon because it is need of our online education. As you rightly said in the opening remarks, sir, future belongs to blended learning, and online is going to be there. Even whether it will remain as a mainline or not, we don't know, but it will remain as one of the important component of learning. So this is what
is the experience in United Kingdom, Tom?
Yeah, the digital divide's a real concern, and not just in higher education, but at school level as well, in terms of access to infrastructure. And I think schools and universities have done a terrific job in trying to support students, but I think fundamentally that the gap that we know already exists in terms of what class you belong to, your wealth, and your access to opportunities is likely to grow as a result of what's happened in the last 12 months. So it's on us as higher education providers, to make sure that we're supporting all of our students and ensuring that we offer access to a wide range of students. But it is a real challenge for us. As we've said, kind of blended learning is likely here to stay, but I think we absolutely need to be cognizant of the fact that students' experiences of engaging with learning in different environments will be very different. For example, we're going to be taking new students in to our undergraduate programs in September who will not have done any exams for a year and a half to 2 years because of the pandemic. So, there's a technological aspect, but there's also just a gap in learning that needs to be addressed as well. So yeah, it's certainly a challenge that we haven't solved yet, but we're working incredibly hard to try and support students that where there is that divide.
Thank you, Tom. Ida, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I wish I could say there's no digital divide, but there is. I agree with Tom. It's not just at the higher ed level. Because of the complexity of our geography in Malaysia, the East and the West, you'll see very, disparities at school level, at higher ed, and because there's, very higher education is not homogeneous, so you'll have those private campuses where they have invested in learning management platforms, so they're a little bit okay as opposed to others or other public institutions where they have to rely on, initially when we made that shift very quickly, that rapid transition, they had to rely on things that were free. So in that shift in itself, you see that we're concerned about equipping our teachers with technological competence, course design, communication change significantly. But again, because of that gap, you have to take into consideration as well whether your students are also ready, because they're at home and not everybody has a quiet room, not everybody has a laptop, and sometimes they share gadgets between their siblings, you see. So it's a very complex problem, but there's a lot that needs to be done, and it can't be just higher ed trying to solve this. If it's involving infrastructure, we need a lot of financial injection to provide those basic resources like stable internet and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no simple solution for this. Vandana, do you see any other questions?
Yes, sir. There are a few other questions. Some of them are related also. Priyanka has asked, if a graduate is planning to become an entrepreneur, what kind of skills and preparations are required to reap the opportunities arising out of digital transformation? So if somebody wants to become an entrepreneur.
My interpretation of that question would be, do the characteristics we normally associate with entrepreneurship, do the characteristics themselves change because of the digital transformation, or you think some newer skills are required to become an entrepreneur? Prashant, would you like to take up that question?
Sure, Professor Bala, yes. So the answer to the question, I think, is digital transformation has certainly made entrepreneurship easier. Because unlike in the past, when you needed, if you go back to say 20, 30 years back, setting up an industry or setting up a business required a huge capital investment and considerable resources in terms of people. Today, you have business models that can be enabled by just a cloud service running somewhere. If you have a few thousand rupees, no limit on your credit card, you can swipe, get access to a cloud infrastructure, and then set up a business. And that business can then slowly start paying for itself. So I think digital transformation is probably one of the best things that's happened to entrepreneurship. And I think it's clearly evident as well, right? I mean, there hasn't been as much of talk about entrepreneurship and about startup and culture as has been for the past maybe 5 to 8 years. So, on a humorous note, there used to be a time when, you wouldn't be able to get married if you were an entrepreneur, right? Unless you were really well settled on. But today, you see that the whole mindset has changed, and this might be surprising to our panelists from other countries, but that's how it used to be in India. So today it's changed, and then suddenly being an entrepreneur is a very cool thing, which I think is good. All I could say is that the fundamentals don't change, right? The fact that you need to have a hustle mindset, you need to get things done, you need to be have various skill sets. It's just not about being good at technology or something. You need to know how to manage people, how to manage finances. You need to be able to pick up and get up every time you fall down. So that's those skill sets those fundamental characteristics don't change. That will never change. But the fact that you have digital transformation playing such a big role in our lives today means that it's so easy for you to be an entrepreneur, and it's easy for you to make an impact. A WhatsApp required only 50 people. Let me just contrast this. I don't know if you've thought about it this way. If you look at an Airtel in India, which is probably the largest telco player, right? To send SMSs to, I don't know, maybe they have 200, 300 million customers in India, or lesser. I'm guessing far lesser than that. They have invested probably, billions of dollars or lakhs of crores. A WhatsApp with 50 people and a cloud service running somewhere in a data center is able to connect 2-3 billion people across the world. That gives you a sense of how easy it is for you to build scale and make an impact thanks to digital. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Prashant. Maya, I have a question for you. Do you think that the challenges have been made more acute because of the changing aspirations of the millennial generation? The changing aspirations and expectations of the millennial generation of students, do you think that has also contributed to making these challenges for management education more acute?
I would put the other way around, that it's the inability or the hesitation of the other generations like me and the next to have come to understand what the millennial or the new generation really wants. So, and I talk for large scale organizations like ours, where we have 3 lakh employees, kind of 300,000 employees, right? Where you have like maybe 1/4 of the generation as the fresh, millennials and Gen Zs, and the rest of it are all are in the digital divide world in a way, not in the true digital divide, but from mental mindset perspective. So I think the challenges on the management education is not thrown out because of the millennials. It's more because of the construct of the problems that are changing, or the ecosystem changing, phenomena changing, all of that. In an organization, the challenge is more about these multiple generations. 4 generations coexist when you solve a problem or when you address a customer. Yes. So how do they come together? I have seen that the millennials, the young, the fresh talent who are coming out of college, they are committed to what they need to deliver. It's just that their intrinsic drivers are a bit different compared to the other generation. So whenever the senior of employees of the organization say that when I studied, when I did this, those days don't exist. These kids don't understand that. So
they don't relate.
They don't relate. First thing I say is don't mention about your background and your college and your life. let's start with the current work customer and their work, and let's listen to them, right? I think the challenge is about active listening to the young millennials and then adapting to those changes. I mean, I can go on and on the fresh talent.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Maya. Vandana, any other question? Muted.
Yes, there are many questions actually, but I think most of them has been addressed by the panel members. But one interesting question I see, that is like, though technology provides huge opportunities, has it also reduced the human touch and interaction at workplace? So
I think Bhimaraya should take it up.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think this is a great question. I must say, in this highly connected world, we are highly disconnected. This I can say because we are highly connected with the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those things whom we never met, and also different continent, different part of the world. However, we have forgotten to connect with our roots, with our traditional knowledge, and even our own Indianness we have forgotten. So we are moved away so much to the Western and all those things. So that is the disconnect. I think now the time has come, that connect has to come, and probably the way Japanese management is taught all over the world after Japan became super economy 80 to 95. So India is going to lead the world in 4 or 5 years. Probably Indian management is taught, rest of the world already. Germany is known for Sanskrit much more than India. Their Sanskrit is mandatory, it is taught, and Ayurveda, they are #1, they are taken from here. Probably management, nobody else will take from India. Yoga also has gone, but management will remain from India, and it will go from India to rest of the world. This is what my wish, and I think that will happen. Thank you very much.
God bless India and God save India.
Yeah, I think, yeah, great.
Yes. Thank you, Bhimaraya. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we are slightly behind schedule, and I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience caused to all of you. It has been a great pleasure moderating this particular eminent panel. All of you are stalwarts, all of you are leaders in your own field, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your contribution. I will hand it over back to Vandana, who is coordinating the event. So thank you very much. God bless all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, panel members. That was a very exciting and enlightening session. I must say that we have all gained immensely from listening to you. Thank you very much. And I think each of you spoke so very well and so relevant to the topic. I invite our director, Professor P. Sadasivam, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Vandana. Good morning to Tom. Good evening to Ida, and good afternoon to the rest from India. It's lunchtime, though we are sitting with empty stomach, but our minds are filled with plenty of food for thoughts today. In fact, it has been overloaded. I'll start from Mr. Madhu Raghavan, Director TAPME Manipal, who spoke on trends positively impacting business and negatively impacting as well, and the new skills that are most sought after, which are direct drivers of change. It has been well received, and my thanks to Dr. Madhu Raghavan for his address and his participation. I thank Mr. Prashant, Executive Director, Quadra Systems, for his time, who spoke on the lifespan of companies coming down and the 5 pillars and the need of awareness of indirect competitors. All these things, I think, should be a good lesson for the budding leaders. Thank you very much, Prashant. And I thank Dr. Ida, who is Head of Schools Design and Arts and Director of the Center of Educational Research, Swinburne, Sarawak, Malaysia. Her thoughts on the top 10 skills of 2025 as per the World Economic Forum has been insightful and noteworthy. Thank you very much, Dida, for having spent your time, and thanks for the address as well. My thanks are due to Ms. Maya Srikumar, Vice President Cognizant, Coimbatore. Her problem statements has been well received as far as the employee engagement and all practices, which we are also experiencing here. And one noteworthy point to be mentioned is that strategies required for the moment rather than for the next 5 years are all well received. Thank you, Ms. Maya. I thank Mr. Thomas Spencer, Head UG Program, Nottingham Business School, UK, for his thoughts on change management and developing skills as a part of organization culture. Well received, Mr. Thomas, and thanks for your time. You were here early in the morning at 5 a.m. Thanks for everything. My thanks are due to Dr. Bhimaraya Maitre, Director, IIM Nagpur. Your thoughts on the requirement of students to develop skills for new jobs and for the roles in the corporate world. We have to make them ready for the unknown role. I think these points are well taken, and we will definitely look into these things when we design our curriculum as well. Finally, our thanks are due to Professor Balasubramanian, and who can moderate on such a topic with all such eminent experts from industry and academia. Thank you very much, sir, for your way of integrating the different thoughts coming out from different people from different walks of life. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable inputs and moderation. And thanks to Vandana for being the anchor person and connecting everything together. And I know that you have been running around ever since the day we started our plan for this industry day. Thank you very much for everything, Vandana. And I should also thank our technology team headed by Mr. Ganesan, Venugopal, Arun, and our faculty team, Satyapriya and Dr. Kavita, for their wonderful contribution in taking up this program in a very smooth manner. My thanks to all the faculty members who have participated in this. And last but not the least, our students who have been, I'm sure, have been taking up a lot of lessons from this session. This is totally different from what otherwise we have here in different types of interactions we have with the people from industry. And this is definitely going to be directly useful to them, and they are going to be the beneficiaries for this. Thank you everyone for your time and participation. It's been a wonderful industry day. I think as a director, I'll go wholeheartedly with satisfaction. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. God bless everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.